Quenching your thirst for Needham real estate news, you are watching What's My House Worth? You're also staring at the mugs of Ryan McDonnell and Rob Ticktin. We are with Hawthorne Real Estate. We build homes under Hawthorne Builders, and we also provide brokerage services with Hawthorne Properties. Hello, Ryan.
How you doing, Rob? Welcome to spring, finally?
Finally. It feels that way, indeed. Boy. And the question is, are the houses going to start springing on and then back off the market?
Yeah, I think the emphasis is springing on first. They got to get there, right?
That's true. Early spring, that's usually how it works. And since it is early spring, we're going to start off by looking at the early spring sales for Needham. This is per MLS, single family sales. And today's episode focuses on the March sales data. Ryan, as you look at that screen, what do you see?
I see, well, not a lot of homes. We're still hovering in that low teens, not even getting to 15 for March. We're looking at 13 sales of single family homes per MLS.
And I think we were expecting maybe a little bit more, wouldn't you
say? Yeah, I would say it's underwhelming. And I think it's just a function of, they're selling. It's not like they're not. They're not coming on the market. Which has been we've been preaching that for a couple of years now. It's almost like, where's the inventory? But the 13 homes that did sell had an average list price of just over $1 million, which is up from the high nines last month. The average sale price of also over $1 million, again, also up from high nines. So those are strong numbers. And the sales percentages as a percentage of list, or sales prices as a percentage of list and original list, holding very steady at 98. 99, 97, respectively, and then that average sales price per square foot, $343.
Solid.
Came down a little bit, but still, that's a really big number. It was down from $346 last month, but my gosh, $343.
Healthy.
Yep. And then the days on market, a little bit of an uptick on that, up to 92 days, which is a little surprising given what we're seeing. I mean, we're still seeing these properties flying off the shelves, but 20 homes sold in March 2013, so our volume is down over the prior year.
Yeah, I think the part of the reason that the average days on market is at 92, whereas it's been a little bit lower in the previous months, is we didn't see, I don't think, quite as many instances of these houses just coming on the market and just everybody, flurrying to grab them. There's one in particular that I know of, but there's also a few that that sold this month that had been on the market for a little while. So the 92 days on market is a number that I think we're going to see maybe go back down next month. But
it could also be that agents and sellers alike are starting to recognize that there's such high demand, and maybe list prices are going to start creeping up a little bit.
Maybe.
That's something that's certainly possible. Although there is one instance that we'll probably talk about next month where that certainly wasn't the case.
That's right. So 20 homes sold in March 2013. So we're down a little bit from last year, but I would anticipate that's not going to be the case moving forward. Trailing 6 months shows what the trends are looking like as we look back from the winter, actually fall into the winter and now into the spring, and things are climbing, albeit, well, I don't know if climbing is the right word.
Right. It's like being on a treadmill and just like hitting that little one level up button.
That's right, one half level up.
Right.
But so we see it's from 11 to 12 to 13 over the last 3 months. There's December still in the lead, Ryan. I don't know if that's going to be the case once we close out April, but not a whole lot of information necessarily to glean from the 11 to 12 to 13.
No, off to a roaring start so far.
Yeah, stumbling out of the gate, perhaps. March historical sales, we talked about March is down a little bit from what we expected, but how does it stack up to previous Marches? And that I would say would be in line with what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost sort of like, you were reading a little doom and gloom story to you, but the market is incredibly strong. They're just, can't say it enough times, there aren't many houses to choose from, and that's why the sales numbers are where they are. And
it just seems like the specific specs that a lot of people are looking for, there just aren't that many homes. Forget about, there aren't that many homes going on the market. I just don't know how many of those homes exist in relation to the number of people who are looking for, the perfect size, the perfect location on the perfect lot. It's just, there are only so many of those.
Yeah, I mean, we're having more and more conversations with clients, and we touched on this in last month's show, where people that are coming to us saying, okay, I don't find anything in like the finished product form that I'm looking for. So is there anything that you can show me that maybe I can put some work into to get it where I want it to be? And that's, it's just indicative. I mean, there really isn't anything for people to look at. So they're thinking they're thinking outside the box, which is good, which we encourage. But it's a challenge. It's a challenge for for buyers all over the place,
Right.
especially here.
And everybody wants that A/A+ location, and not every location can be an A+ location.
Right.
So let's take a look at the 13 homes that have sold over the course of March. And as always, we'll start at the bottom in terms of price and work our way up. The first house on the list is 109 Reservoir. This one sold for $490,000, quite a bit off the list there, Ryan.
Yeah, the original list was $600,000. They had some large price reduction to get ultimately to a $500,000 list price, and then it sold for $490,000. So it was on the market for a little while. I mean, Reservoir is that kind of the area over by the the Newton border.
That's right under 128.
Right. It's a little commercial over there. This house, you may argue this house was maybe overly finished, in terms of what it ultimately probably went for. It was a very nice finishes. I mean, they did some nice updates.
And a big lot, too.
And a large lot.
Half acre.
Yeah, and it has a bonus second floor room with separate entrances for potential rental income. We'll have to stay tuned to see how that works out.
Something tells me it's not a legal two-family.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But yeah, so I mean, this is one of those things where you're looking at getting into Needham under $500,000 for a house that you can move right into, and I think this is a good deal. And I think that the buyer is probably very happy here.
I would agree. This is the same house that sold for $387,000 back in 2000. My understanding is that the process from the time it really went on the market till it closed, it was a tricky one with the negotiations and everything else with the person who bought it. But we say it time and time again: real estate agents earn their money sometimes, and
as well they should.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think this was a case where they did just that. Next up is 125 Charles River Street. We kind of do a 180 in terms of location here, geographically. Yeah. And otherwise, this is a much smaller lot, but located in an area that's surrounded by some higher priced homes.
Yeah, and some larger lots. So this one's 6,900 square feet. It's on Charles River Street. It's right across from the Walker Gordon Field, which is that brand new baseball field and playground, which is pretty nice. And
very nice.
And then the lake's right next to that. So the house is it's single level living. There isn't a garage. It's you can tell it's been kind of updated. I mean, I wouldn't say it's been gut renovated or totally redone, but it clearly it's in move-in condition. I'm wondering if the new owner is going to have the same centerpiece. Remember when you walked in the door, what we were looking right at?
A foosball table.
That's right. Yeah. So that's you don't see that every day in the middle of a dining room, but
I think that might have been an exclusion.
right. But that was fun for us. So I mean, this one, quick sale. Again, you're getting into Needham for under $5,000. I think it's probably a pretty good deal.
And in fairness, when you have 1,300 square feet and 5 kids, a foosball and a dining room table, you do what you got to do, right? The house was, although it was recently updated, was a little beat up. Yeah. Needed, to get painted and a couple other things. But I agree. Also, corner lot, so you're not entirely on Charles River, which is an appealing characteristic there. But I think we both agreed when we saw it at $499. It seemed like it was the right number, and
right.
As it turned out, that was the case. 23 days on market, $492. That is almost perfectly priced, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was very well priced. I think if you price that a dollar more, you're into a totally different ballgame.
Right. Next up on our list is 169 Laurel Drive. This one sold for $575. Original list for $579. Ryan.
Yeah, this one was well priced. I remember meeting this owner a year or so ago, and him at the time telling me he was looking to get high fives, and at that point, I was a little skeptical, just because the market hadn't exploded the way it has, and so I think in this particular case, persistence paid off because he got his number in a short period of time. And this house needs quite a bit of work. It's Laurel Drive is great. We've seen, as we'll see in the next house that comes up, some pretty good numbers on Laurel recently. This one has it's not necessarily a small lot, but it's very narrow and deep slopes down considerably in the back. So I don't know if this is a land sale. It's possible that it is.
My impression was that it was.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky build. And then the question is, what do you do with that backyard? Do you spend a lot of money in trying to step it up and plateau it with a large retaining wall, which is what you would need to do. So we'll see. But Laurel's a great street.
And we're not just saying that because friends of the show live on Laurel. Yeah. It's a very desirable location.
No, I mean, we've seen so many sales on Laurel in the last couple of years, and they really, the houses do very well. So, this is, and I'm going to keep my eye on this one. This could be a tough one to develop. So we'll see what happens here.
All right, 35 Laurel Drive is next up on the list, and this one is Ryan's deal of the month. How
It is,
about
Rob.
that?
Yes. I mean, how can you resist a house that goes on for $729 and sells for $775? With, I mean, what did we hear? There were over 15 offers on
I
this
believe the
property?
number's 17, Ryan.
I mean,
With
yikes.
a margin of error of 1.
Right. And this one, it didn't, you know, when we toured it, and this is called kind of just catching lightning in a bottle. It was like right at that like weekend where there was a gazillion people out looking for houses.
It was, the timing was perfect. I
Perfect.
agree.
I mean, this one, I mean, the first thing that jumped out at me is if you have to use the restroom and you're on the first floor, you're out of luck. You're either going up or down. And when you go downstairs, the basement's not finished. So the only thing finished in that basement is the bathroom. So that to me was just, I didn't expect to see it. And certainly it's a little shocking that somebody's going to pay, you know, over $50,000 more for the privilege of using that bathroom. But otherwise, the house is updated. I mean, it's got a lot of character to it. Again, Laurel is a street we love. But it's, you know, it's 1,674 square feet on a small lot. I mean, if you just look at historically in the last year, you know, 3 beds, 2 baths, that size, your average sale price is $630K.
Right.
So this is a considerable number for what this house is on paper. It's just you're paying for the timing of the buy and, you know, a lot of the nice finishes, but this is a big number.
A couple other notes about this house. So there was 18 steps, right? When you walk up to the house to get in the front door, you had to go up 18 steps. Also, if you're using the garage and you're pulling into the garage with groceries, right, you got to go through your unfinished basement and then up the stairs and into your kitchen.
Right.
So it's a tough maneuver with, you know, small kids getting in and out of that kitchen. There's a lot of steps involved.
Yeah, let's just say that there's other people on Laurel Drive that were very excited about this.
Yes,
number.
without question. And I think also you talked about it catching lightning in a bottle and the timing of it. If you remember, this one came on the market on the heels of 14 Barrett,
Right.
which was the weekend before, which was bedlam. And I think basically between Barrett and Laurel was born the 7s of the new 6s.
Right.
Because of what we had seen in this, you know, 3-week span of anything that was nice and in the 7s was just, people were coming out of all different directions to stake a claim to it. And I agree, that was the case here, and a really healthy number for this house.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. We're not, you know, negative towards the house itself. It's
No.
just,
I mean, the house was beautiful. I
Right.
mean, you're in that first floor. It felt like new construction.
Yeah, it was very nicely
Very
finished.
well done.
It's just a matter of what you're paying for it relative to what similar houses have sold for very recently.
But real quick, you go 169 Laurel, the house we just did, sold for $200,000 less. If you buy that house and you want to turn it into this house, you're spending $200,000 to get there. So it's either way, it's a lot of money, but in this market, it's almost justified, as was indicated by the 17 or so offers.
Yeah, it had to appraise and close. So
True.
there you go.
True. 146 South Street is a house that sold for a little bit more, $75,000 more than 35 Laurel Drive, but a significantly different
Right.
house. When you talk about location, this is on South Street. This was an enormous lot. It was on the Charles.
Yep.
The house, however, was basically on South Street.
Right.
And I mean almost literally on South Street. It was just a few feet away from the
Right.
street. And it was actually, the kitchen was kind of newer in there, but it was an older house. There were so many things about it that just didn't work. And so it was clear that there was a very high likelihood that a builder would buy this house. And I believe that was the case.
I think you're right. And I think this is a case of the seller, and sometimes it's difficult as a seller to do this, and we can speak from experience as we're trying to do this with a house in Dover at the moment, when you don't necessarily know what you are selling. And is this a land sale? Is this a home sale? How do you price it? I mean, originally it was priced at over 1.1 and it settles at 850. So clearly I think it was originally positioned maybe as a home sale.
Agreed. Well, and I think a component to that is people they feel very close to their homes, and they don't like the thought of the fact that they're living in a teardown.
Right.
They see so much beauty and greatness about their house that they figure somebody else will step in and see it as well, and they'll pay more than what a builder would pay for the lot. But it just didn't work in this case, and that's why it sold for so much less than the original list.
This should be an interesting home site because it's sloped.
Oh, yeah.
It goes down to the river, so you're going to have some topographical challenges ahead of you. But I think you can really do a lot with it. You can do a walkout basement. It's going to walk out to that river, and it's going to be really cool.
Really cool.
So that I expect to be an interesting and a very nice home in the future.
110 Hawthorne Ave is next up on the list. And whoa, wait, what? What's going on here? Yeah, I think it's the top house.
Right, it's the top house.
It's not the bottom house.
This is definitely an interesting strategy, and it ended up being kind of moot, but we're just, this is the kind of thing that we love to harp on. This listing highlighted what the house used to look like. It's saying, look at this great house, but oh, by the way, this is the house that it used to look like. And I just, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, do I want to see that if I'm the buyer? Like, I love the way it looks now. It's nicely new, it's new siding, and it looks all clean. But do I want to know that that's what was underneath?
Right, but I would
sure
say I probably wouldn't either.
Yeah.
If the renovation is that nice and the house looks so great, then that should
just stand alone.
Stand alone.
We don't need to see the befores. But it's a house when it sold over asking in a short period of time on a great street. So
multiple offers.
Really didn't matter. It didn't end up mattering, but.
I think the location and the finish was probably more important with regard to this listing than the fact that there were 2 pictures.
Right.
And I don't begrudge any listing agent for trying to think outside of the box and try
Yeah.
something new. And obviously it didn't hurt him.
Right.
But I think there's a reason that it's the first time we've seen it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a unique approach.
It's like putting a new construction on and then putting a picture of the house that was torn down.
Right. Yeah. People just don't necessarily want to know. This thing had some nice features too. Updated kitchen, it has 3-season porch. Sold in the 7s, I think, back in 2010. The one unique element about this house though is like the living space on the first floor almost kind of wraps around the side. Like it doesn't have an open first floor because there's a big chimney fireplace that's in the center. So they've kind of carved living space in what I think may have been a porch at one point that was enclosed, and it's sort of it doesn't have that open flow to it. But,
Yeah.
Great neighborhood, and obviously the home did very well at 865.
Right, smaller lot, and it had a mom cave in the basement as well.
Okay.
Not to be confused with a man cave, as the listing agent told me.
All
74 Richardson Drive is next up on the list as we edge ever so closely to the $1 million sales price. This one sells for $887.5, and this one was up and down in just 4 days, Ryan. Not a particularly big house, 1,700 square feet, but 4 beds, 2.5 baths, and the sold for a little bit less than the assessed value.
Yeah, it's over an acre lot though. I think like 46,000 square feet. It's a big
Yeah,
lot.
that's
if I'm
right.
not
It's
mistaken.
I believe it's 1.09 acres if
Okay,
memory serves.
sure. Yeah, that sounds about right. And it's dated. So this, do we have a candidate for redevelopment here, Rob?
Potentially.
Is that a lot? Is that a lot of money to pay for a lot on Richardson Drive?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Well, it's. I don't think it works as a new construction.
No?
I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do we need to stay tuned?
We do need to stay tuned.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna dive into another listing that's sold on Richardson.
Okay.
If that isn't, I don't know that this is. The problem here is, I don't know if you're spending $887 for a house, and it's only 1,700 square feet too. Like if it was bigger, I would say maybe you could redevelop the existing house because you have that square footage to work with.
It's a multi-level. Those are tricky to work with. They're not. You don't have great. You don't have like easy expansion like you do with a Cape or a Colonial or even a Split. With a multi, because of the multi levels, hence the name. It's not always easy to tie them together and do an addition with a floor plan that works.
And when you do, it doesn't really look like a traditional looking house. In fact, there's one right now on Charles River that we'll probably be looking at in a couple of months that would fit the bill there. But anything else on 74 Richardson before we dive in for a closer look?
No, let's take a closer look.
Okay, let's stay on Richardson and do a little then and now segment.
This is fun.
Yeah. So 74 Richardson Drive came on the market, and it immediately made me think of 160 or 175 Richardson.
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine that was the case with a lot of brokers because 175 Richardson was on the market for so long.
Yeah.
And it always looked like a good value as it got closer to the eventual list price. So how does one sell in 4 days and the other one sells in 552 days when the houses, at least on paper, look so similar?
Aforementioned lightning in bottle.
Lightning in bottle. So you could say it's a timing thing, but if you look, we'll just work our way down here. 175 Richardson sells in December of 2013. This one sells in March. So we're only talking about a 3-month difference, right?
Yep.
It's actually
with you.
3 month and change. Now the original list is, I'm guessing, has a lot to do with the fact on why one sells so quickly and one does not,
Agreed.
right? So, I think the lesson learned as you look at these two side by side is, if you price your house correctly or even price it a little low, then you're going to sell your home in a timely manner, and it's going to be a less painful process for the seller. And when a house is overpriced, which 175 Richardson clearly was, at least at the beginning,
and throughout the duration, for a
Throughout
little
the
while.
duration.
552 days is an eternity.
then once you come down, the house becomes stale. So even when you get to that right price point, people are wondering, why has this house not sold? And then it ends up hurting you more than it helps you to list it for too much. Now, in this case, we don't know the background story of 175 Richardson. For all we know, it was a homeowner who simply said, this is what I want my house priced at. I don't care what you say it's worth. But I think a lesson to be taken from this is if somebody's selling their house and they bring in 3 brokers for 3 different prices on their house, and one has a higher price than the other 2, going with that one doesn't mean you're going to get that higher price. What it could potentially mean is that you're in for a lot of pain and a lot of suffering and 500 days of wondering why your house isn't selling, and showings and open houses, and it can be a disaster. So going back to that slide real quickly, just one other thing I want to touch on. What is interesting to me is that our friend Chip Davis at the assessing department,
Banging it out.
while he was a little bit off on both these houses, what I will say is that he was off by almost the same exact amount.
This is consistent.
He is. He's consistently slightly off on these 2 houses on Richardson.
Yeah.
So one was 72 under assessed, it sells for, and then 74 Richardson sells for 68,000 under assessed. So it's just fascinating stuff here, Ryan. Just fascinating.
It is, and this couldn't illustrate your point better about, if you underprice your house, the market will correct itself. You overprice your house, you're
in for a rough ride.
Yeah, you're sort of, just lost at sea sometimes.
So don't always go for that higher number.
True.
Next up, 467 Central Avenue, and this is a house, Ryan, that I'm going to call my deal of the month for the buyer.
All right.
For the
Good. I
buyer.
can't wait.
So this house was on for 119 in 05. It doesn't sell. Then it goes on for 109 in 2011. Doesn't sell. Then it goes on for 109 again in 2014. Boom.
Done.
The house sells in 34 days. I thought the house was really nice. I liked the way it was laid out inside. It was nicely finished. It wasn't new construction. It was a little bit older, but it was on a nice sized plot of land. It was 1 acre. Had a putting green in the backyard, Ryan. You couldn't see it when it was listed this time around, but we saw it back when it was in 2011.
Does the putting green hurt?
No.
You don't think?
I don't. When you have an acre, I don't think it hurts. If you
got to maintain that putting green, or else you're just going to have a piece of grass.
I'm not sure though that it was grass or that it was turf.
Oh.
I could be wrong.
Yeah,
right?
we weren't afforded the luxury of seeing it because it was covered in snow at the time.
No, but if you don't want the putting green, then you just let it turn into regular grass.
Well, that's
right?
what I mean. You're not paying for the putting green.
No, but it's a nice little add-on, especially if you have somebody in your family that likes golf.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful bonus. Walk to Elliott. I thought that in this market at 109, I thought it was a lot of house, and I didn't love it 3 years ago at 109, but I loved it in 2014 at 109, and at the end of the day, the sellers did right by holding out because the market was only creeping up, and at the end of the day, they got the number that they were looking for. So
it's another case of persistence paying off.
That's right.
Yeah, and I'm always a huge fan of the walkout basement. I just think that adds so much to a house.
Agreed. It makes that bottom floor.
This one had like a full-on finished kitchen. Like the basement was like another living area.
It's great. Circular driveway.
Which is incredibly, it seems like a no-brainer, but if you're on Central, I mean, that adds so much, not just for you, but for your guests. People who aren't necessarily as accustomed to backing out into oncoming traffic. The circular driveway is a hit.
And walk to Elliott, as I mentioned, without having to cross Central.
Yep.
25 Best Road is next up on the list. This is a house that's a new construction home, originally priced at 1,299. Took a little while, but got a number that was pretty close to that.
Yeah, I think it went on, during construction, so that's always sort of a days on market driver. Bought the land for 505. Finished attic. I think this is probably a pretty cut and dry.
Okay.
Not a lot going on there, but I think the developer's probably happy.
Yeah, and this is an underrated neighborhood, I would call it.
Yeah, I would agree. It's a good point. Well said.
Thank you. 47 Longacre Road is a really nice neighborhood.
Yes, it is.
A lot of desirability with this location. And it sells for exactly what it was listed for, and it took just 4 days.
Yes.
Ryan, you had the luxury of seeing this house. Let's hear what you have to say
I
about
did,
it.
and just, I think the location is a big part of this deal. I mean, this one, for those of you who don't know, is right on the corner where sort of Longacre starts. It splits off of Old Farm, which is near Needham, the Needham Golf Club. It's a good sized lot, but not a huge yard with this one. This is an example of a house that's that's well tailored to the lot, because it's kind of a long, narrow lot, and this is a long, narrow house. So it's kind of an expanded cape. It was built in 2004, I believe. First floor master, which definitely appeals to certain buyers, but not all. But in this case, the buyer was the right one. 4 days. Built 2004, so it's surprisingly, how much a house can be kind of dated in just 10 years. But it definitely grabbed me as a house that someone's going to come in and spend some money on cosmetics and maybe just do some updates in the home. There's a ton of a ton of space in the basement. So there's surprisingly a lot of potential for a house with 4,500 square feet. But I think this is a pretty good deal.
All right.
Given some of the numbers that we're seeing and that we're about to see, I like it.
The market has spoken and agrees with you.
Yeah.
604 High Rock Street is next up. This one is on a lot, a big lot, 15,682 square feet, and as a result, you have a yard that you can brag about.
Yeah. Generally speaking, bragging about your yard, how far does that get you?
I'm okay with somebody bragging about their yard.
Okay.
It's when they brag about more material things that it rubs me the wrong way.
Like the stuff in their yard?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I got a great yard, Rob. I really like it.
I'm cool with that.
Okay. So this one is right up near Newman, so walk to Newman.
Yes.
It's one of those houses that you don't really get to see because it sells during construction. So we can't really speak to it other than what's on paper. And what's on paper looks like a pretty good deal.
Agreed. 194 Lindbergh Avenue sold for quite a bit over list. One kind of similar situation, right, as High Rock in the sense that it was put on during construction, so we didn't get a chance to see this one, but
huge number for
huge number. A lot of builders like that number and appraisers.
It'll definitely help the appraisers. For 4,300 square feet, getting 1.6 is tremendous.
Second highest selling house in the past year, Ryan, of all the homes that sold in Needham that were under 4,500 square feet. Second highest.
Good.
And the first highest was that one on Fox Hill that was 3 beds.
Yeah.
You ready for the big seller?
I do. I like this house. Go for it.
Yeah, okay. Time for the big seller. Yeah. Take a look at 28 Clark Road. That's today's big seller.
So this one sold for $1,775, a little bit off the list price of $1.99. This house is really cool. It's unique. It's very elegant. It's not like it was redone yesterday, but still the finishes are holding true. Classic looks, like paneled library, a nice sun porch. It's got a really cool backyard with a pool. Clark Road is a road obviously with a lot of other high-end homes.
Really close to Wellesley.
Really close to Wellesley. There's batting cages on the property, which I did not see, nor did I know about, which is really intriguing.
Huh.
So I would love to get back in and see the batting cages. So if you're listening, give me a call.
The Wellesley Country Club too.
Yeah, you can see the golf course. Yeah, it's pretty neat. And it was on the market for almost 100 days, but I think that's typical with a home in this price point. So I think the buyer here got a very unique property, and I really found it to be cool.
Right, originally listed, and I think you were spot on with elegant. I think that's a good way to put it. It was a pretty house, and it was originally sold as part of a package with another lot. Didn't work, and so they ended up splitting them up, and I think it served the seller well.
I'm sure it did, yeah.
Market Snapshot, that takes a look at what's going on in the market as of April 2nd, 2014. Single family listings, there are 55. A year ago, there were 39.
That's encouraging.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
A lot of these are high end, above the 1.2, 1.3 range, though.
True. Same time last month, there were 60. 67 single family homes under agreement as opposed to 64 last month. How about this? This time last year, there were 73 homes under agreement.
Yeah, everything just seems like there just isn't as much to talk about.
Okay.
But
and average list price there is 1.5, little down, and 103 days on market. Average list price per square foot, $350, slightly above the sales price per square foot.
For the first time.
That's right.
Finally.
Thanks for joining us on What's My House Worth. This is Ryan. I am Rob. If you want to reach us, Ryan, real quick.
Yes. Call us 781-707-6564 or email us at rob.ryan@hawthornre.com.
That'll do it. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you soon.